And how many times did we go to, a Valentine's party at school, or a church thing, or a choir thing, or a football game, or a band thing, and we were more concerned about getting the right picture for Instagram or Facebook than we were being present for the actual event?
Stuff in your life is good. You just don't want to cling to it. You don't want to grasp it. You don't want to hang on to it so that you don't have an open hand to do other things.
There's truly freedom and a gift in living open-handed. If you can walk away from what society says we're supposed to want and have and need and all of those things.
Having the faith as a person of faith to just trust that there is plenty, and if this is my purpose, if this is what I'm supposed to do, if this is the way I'm supposed to live my life, there will be enough that I don't have to hold so tightly to things, that there's an abundance.
So like what you were saying a minute ago, you felt like there was scarcity and that you were all fighting for the same thing, and it can turn people against each other when they're trying to grasp onto something. But if you learn to live with an open hand, then we can all help each other to reach the goals that we're trying to reach.
So with that idea, which I think is great. So with that idea, tell me about the word karate.
Okay.
Because I think there's an important connection there that I want to make sure we get.
So karate actually comes from two words, kara, which means empty, and te, which means hand in Japanese. So the word karate actually means empty hand, or open hand is another translation. And the idea, even among those who practice the martial arts, is that karate is more than just a martial art. It's actually a philosophy to extend an open, empty hand to somebody in need. So they teach you when you learn karate, not just to chop people, but to help people out who have, maybe symbolically or maybe literally fallen into a ditch, but also keep an open and empty hand so that other people can help you. And that's something we haven't really touched on too much in our discussion so far, is that keeping that open hand isn't just so that you can give to other people, but it's so that you have the humility to accept help from other people when you need help yourself.
I am horrible, A+, don't do this well at all.
Yeah. Welcome to the human race, right? It's so much easier to give than it is to receive help.
It is.
Yes. I just broke my arms. I tripped over my sister's 14-year-old lab that barely moves, and I fell with my arms straight out in front of me and broke my left arm in two places and severely sprained and messed up my right arm. Wow. So for like 2 weeks, I could not bend my arms or do anything. Luckily, I didn't have to be in a cast, but it was really tough. So of course, everybody wants to help. Tom's beautiful wife even offered to come help me shower. I was having all of this help, but let me tell you, even my mother, I did not let, I was so prideful during this whole thing. And I knew I was. It is so hard when you're the one that needs and people want to come and do for you. I just have a really tough time with that.
Yeah, that's not easy. The funny thing, as we get older, we delight more and more in giving gifts, and receiving gifts becomes less and less important to us. And I think that relates as well to help. We love helping other people, partially because we care about them, but partially, if we're really honest with ourselves, because we get some secret delight in being the guy who can help people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tom, you look like you want to say something.
No, you're talking about me. I think that's totally true. There is a secret delight of, we all want to be the hero, right? There's an element, and that's just the way we're created. We're created to be social beings. We're created to live in community with each other, and when someone has a need, it's our response, I think, for most people, to want to help, to want to give, to want to help supply that need. So there's if you ever watched Friends, like Phoebe goes through this whole thing about trying to do one unselfish good deed, and she wants to give this, and then she wins some money, and then she tries to give it away, and then she gets recognition for it, and then she's beating herself up because now I feel good about doing something, and that's like my brain.
I think that's most people's brains. It's so easy to give. It's so, I think this goes back to when I was making all the money. It was so easy to throw money at something. If the school called and they were doing a fundraiser, good God, please let me just give you $500. Don't make me go door to door and buy the, wrapping paper or whatever it is. I think giving for me became almost, I didn't even feel it anymore. It wasn't even a thing. It was like, oh, you need money? Okay, here you go. And everybody appreciates it because everybody does need money. And then you're like, oh, well, if somebody go to Summer, she's got it. She can handle it. And it was just the way it was. It almost became expected. It almost became, I don't know. But yeah, I think when you don't allow that to come back to you, or even when I was giving the money, I truly blocked people from being able to have that gift of feeling good for giving, or for bringing me a meal because I was sick. Or you do block the goodness and the reward from people when you don't allow them to have that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why one of the reasons why it takes not just courage to keep an open hand, but humility, because you realize you're not the one providing the things for people. It's being put into your hand by someone else. So you're not the source of all these good things, but someone else is, and you're just sort of the steward. You're the one who's kind of taking care of it for them. So that's one of the things that I like to think about when it comes to seeing things with an open hand, is kind of remembering what it's like when you rent a car or when you stay in a hotel room, right? Because on the one hand, you don't want to trash it. You don't want to tear it up and leave it in, a mess for the next person. But on the other hand, you realize you're only going to have this thing for a short time. And so you don't get too attached to it. And that idea of not getting too attached to it is something I think we can apply to more than just our rental cars and our hotel rooms, but to everything, even our own bodies. Eventually our body's going to give out on us too. And so we want to take care of it. We want to be healthy, but at the same time, we don't want to get too attached because, all these things are going to be taken out of our hands eventually. And so we want to be good stewards of them and not grasp them too tightly. Just to give you a couple quotes from people from other worldviews besides the Christian worldview, there's a very famous Buddhist. His last name is Han, H-A-N-H. I'm not going to try to say the rest of his name because I think I'll just butcher it. But he said, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free. So you were talking about that freedom earlier, Summer, that sense of liberation that you get when, like Tyler Durden would tell us, our possessions are owning us. And then once we let them go, we're free to not be owned by them anymore. There's another famous Buddhist saying that says, you need to start living life with open palms. You tried to grasp the good times you had and the experience is gone. But any challenges you have now will also go. You just need to hold on to them softly with open palms. So even experiences, it talks about not to grasp on. And, people who have been famous at one time have a hard time with that. They try to grasp onto that fame, to that, that popularity and that being somebody, being a famous person. And it takes a lot of humility to open your hand and let go of that fame and that stardom, and to step down and be just, an average person, a normal person again.
Yeah. Hey, man, even Eminem said you got to admit when it's over, right? And the thing, I love the 8 Mile. So it's like, but uh, it sounds like what you're talking about there is experiencing versus owning,
Mm.
right? I mean, we want to experience things, and versus owning them, because we can experience them and then pass that ownership to I can experience something and then pass the ownership to you so
Right.
that you can experience it. And that's multiplied the joy of that experience, right? Which I think is a great reminder.
And if your hands are open and my hands are open and Summer's hands are open, we can pass that experience around to all of us and we can all experience that joy. Whereas if one of us is clinging to something, we're not able to pass. And that ties right into the next idea, and the idea of experiencing something, that experience things themselves and not necessarily just the idea of the thing. So for instance, when you're on a walk, experience the walk. Don't think to yourself, oh, this is nice, I'm on a walk, I deserve this, I needed a break, and be kind of narrating to yourself your experience and setting expectations for your experience. Instead, just allow the experience to be the experience, right? Just walk, just see what is there, and don't bring your preconceived notions into it and disappoint yourself with what you were expecting to see there.
I think that that's been a really wonderful experience I've been able to have over this last year. I have a really great therapist, and she's really taught me how to connect. And I realized very early on in working with her that it's very easy as we go through our busy lives to live very disconnected. You're not you don't really give time to connect to anything that you're doing. You're constantly moving from one thing to the next and sure, you're getting a lot accomplished and a lot done, but by the end of the day, you don't even really remember what you did or who came in your path, because you never really focused enough on them or gave enough attention to what you were doing to really remember it later on. And now when I go throughout my my day, when I'm involved in something back and forth, I really try to turn my phone down or have it in my bag, or really engage in what I'm doing, no matter if I'm going on a walk and I'm just simply going, wow, those trees are a really weird shade of green, or look at the animals that are over there, or you're really connecting to what you're doing and to whom you're with, so that it means more. You're not just passing.
Yeah. And so how many times, so for those, everybody's watching, and for Jeff, just so you guys know, my oldest and her oldest have been best friends since they were toddlers, right? And how many times did we go to, a Valentine's party at school, or a church thing, or a choir thing, or a football game, or a band thing, and we were more concerned about getting the right picture for Instagram or Facebook than we were being present for the actual event.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Savannah's first time she cheered, I was on that field. I was such a proud mama, but I couldn't tell you what her first cheer was, because I was too busy making sure my picture got put up on Facebook and Instagram so everybody else could see how beautiful she was. And sure, I was proud, but it would have been a completely different experience had I stopped and really engaged in that moment. Those moments that we don't get to get back, even if I'm making all the money I thought I could never make, even if I am, boss lady, I don't get those moments back. And that's, I think, been the biggest lesson I've learned over this last year, is the moments, the experiences that I get to have with people, my friends who now know that I love you and I will be there for you at the drop of a hat. I truly believe that those that I'm closest with, Tom can answer this, know that if people call me, I'm there. Not because I'm going to pull out my checkbook and fix the problem for you, but because I'm going to be boots on the ground and I'm going to help you fix the problem. You know, I may not be able to pay for it this time, but I'm going to be here. I'm going to be by your side. And to me, my experience in that is much better. Tom's might not be, but mine is.
Depends on the problem. Yeah.
Well, and a corollary to that, I mean, you probably heard the expression, wherever you go, there you are. And there's two sides to that. You know, there's the side of there you are and you can experience what's going on around you, like enjoying the weird color of the tree or the animals that are over there. Or what a lot of people do is they take all of their issues and all their problems and all their anxiety with them wherever they go. So they try to go on vacation, or they try to move to a new house, or they try all these new things. But every time they go to the new place, they take their issues with them. They find the same problems. They run into the same encounters with people because they themselves are what needs to change, you know, and living with an open hand allows God to change you, allows us to become the person that we want to be rather than the person that we've been grasping onto all this time. It's kind of a funny example. So when I woke up in the middle of the night to write some of these things down that I had going through my head, my laptop is sometimes cantankerous. And at 3:00 in the morning, when I woke up to do this, it wasn't coming on right away. And I was getting pretty upset with it. And I was like, you know, muttering at it under my breath and saying mean things about it. And suddenly I realized I was about to write about keeping an open hand and accepting what comes into my life while I'm trying to force my control on my laptop. And what occurred to me in that moment is living with an open hand is not our default status, okay? That's not what we automatically default to. We have to continually choose to remind ourselves, open your hand, open your hand, open your hand, because we want to grasp, you know, we want to take control. There's an interesting book. Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World. I'm sure you know that one. He also wrote a book called Island, which is really an interesting book. It gets a little new agey in places, so I only recommend it with some, you know, hesitation. But one cool thing he does in that book is it's on an island. The book's called Island. And there are these birds, like mynah birds, that fly around the island all the time. And they keep saying, attention, attention. That's what these birds are saying as they're flying around the island. And the idea is, and Huxley talks about it in the book, the reason why they've trained these birds to do this is because it keeps bringing people's attention back to the present moment and allows them to live in the right now instead of rushing on to, you know, ahead to the future or regretting the past. It teaches them to live with an open hand, accepting what happens to them in this moment and enjoying it and appreciating it.
So I think that's really interesting. I think it's a really great analogy. I think it's a great depiction of that, of living in the moment. I was just so funny. I just before we started was cleaning off my desk. I've been rereading a book by Richard Foster called Celebration of Discipline. Great book.
One of my five favorite books.
Oh, Celebration of what?
Discipline. There's actually a workbook that goes with it now. If you haven't, like my copy of that book, a guy named Jeff Holloway gave that to me. Like when we got married. It's the strangest wedding gift, and it was his copy. So it was already highlighted in parts. And now after 28 years, it looks like a coloring book. I mean, it's worn and it's ragged, and it's one of my most valuable possessions, right? But in that, one of the chapters, it's divided into 3 sections, and the second section starts with a chapter on simplicity. And one of the things he talks about is how to develop a deeper appreciation for and connection with nature. Because I know, Jeff, you're a big fan of walks, of prayer walks. And I always see you posting of, you know, here's my walk today, and it's out by the lake, or it's on a trail, or it's wherever it is. And, you know, he talks about in that chapter about getting close to the earth. Walk whenever you can walk. Listen to the birds and look at the trees, like Summer was saying. Walk barefoot in the grass or the dirt or the sand or the leaves, because we're afraid to get dirty sometimes, right? We don't like to be dirty. Smell the flowers, marvel at all the colors. But his thing reminded me of this, like the birds you were talking about, the minor birds, of the idea of be where your feet are. Wherever your feet are, be there and be present and be engaged in what's happening around you right then, which again is hard because we're tied to not just technology, but we're tied to so many things. It's hard to be where our feet are. Anyway, I bring that up to ask you guys, what are some things that we can do practically that we can kind of, suggest or share with other people. This is what we do. This is what you do. This is what I do to help pursue kind of an open-handed living kind of lifestyle.
Well, it's funny that you said taking your shoes off, because I noticed I was traveling a lot. Like the job that I had the past couple of years, I was flying to a new city like every other week. So I was in Denver, and I was in Orlando, and I was in, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I was all over the place, but it all felt the same because I was eating the same food. I would go to the same restaurants, eat the same food, talk to the same people, do the same things, get on the same apps on my phone. And so it all felt like the same experience. So what I realized I should start doing, and it's very, very simple, but you actually said the same thing. Every time I go to a new place, I literally take my shoes and socks off and I walk around in the sand or in the grass or in, whatever's there in the waves of the beach, and literally physically feel the place where I'm at. And that really helps me to be where my feet are, like you just said. So
really,
yeah, that's one thing that I started doing.
That's awesome. I haven't done that, but throughout this conversation, I'm thinking of, okay, where can I go and just take my shoes off and just be there? Right?
Yeah, because that, and it's literally physically true. I mean, I literally take my actual physical shoes and socks off. But when you think about it metaphorically, there's also a deeper truth there that we live insulated from the world around us. Our shoes and socks insulate us from, we're afraid of getting dirty, or we're afraid of getting cut, or we're worried that our feet are going to be damaged by what we're walking on. So we wear shoes and socks. And I'm not saying shoes and socks are evil. The takeaway message here is not to stop wearing shoes and socks, but to live with an open hand, accepting that you may get hurt and you may get dirty and you may, step on something unpleasant. But that's part of the life experience. And if we insulate ourselves away from it with our shoes and socks and our schedules and all of our money and our houses and everything, and keep our life at bay, then we never really experience it.
I am such a list maker, and I make you laugh, but I make lists about my lists, and that's the control person in me. But there truly is something to. I had this old accountant once told me, imagine all of your problems or all of the things that you have to accomplish as a bunch of little particles that make up a cloud above your head. And just every time you're ready, you just take another particle and you handle it, and then that's gone. Then you take another particle and you handle it, and it's gone. So my sister and I, we walk around going, just particles, just take a particle here and a particle there, and eventually you're going to get through all your particles. And it was just a stupid illustration of some way that you could kind of contain all of the things that get so jumbled up and become this ginormous problem in your brain. Sometimes just writing it down or just being able to cross something off. I'm a firm believer. I make my bed every morning. Stupid, but there is something to getting up and making your bed and starting your day accomplished. I start my day making my bed, and my room looks nice and it's clean, and I don't have, I am a firm believer you don't have to have a lot, but you appreciate what you have. and I'm tidy, and I try to take care of the things that I do have and that I do sort of hold dear to myself. There's a few pieces of jewelry that were my grandmother's that are, you know, those are something that I would clutch. But for the most part, if you told me I had to get all of the things that I didn't want to lose for a fire or a flood or whatever, I could, in one box, collect the things that I would be very sad if I lost. Just, you know, stupid little baby things from the kids and, you know, like I said, some jewelry. But I really have spent this last year, it's funny, with the conversation that brought me to this place this year with my sister, who's 8 years older than me, and we're very, very close. Our girls are 10 weeks apart, and we kind of raised our kids together. But we were sitting on the driveway. We're both making more money than we thought we ever could. Life is good. We own these homes. Our children are grown. And we're having this conversation, and she goes, well, you know, he's just living that $30,000 lifestyle with no stress in his life. And she was almost mad that this acquaintance of ours was able to live this stress-free $30,000 life with really no problems. And she was kind of frustrated. And I looked over at her and I go, you know, the only reason we're not living a $30,000 stress-free life is because we've made it this way. Like, we worked really hard to get ourselves in this situation where we're making this kind of money and have these kind of titles, and, you know, we're doing all of these things. But if we want a stress-free $30,000 life, freaking let's go make that happen. And that's what we're doing. And, you know, there's something to be said for the freedom that comes with that life of very little. And so what do? You make a list, and you knock things out, and you make little goals. They don't have to be wake up, make your bed, brush your teeth, and find 3 people that you can impact. The rest, let it all happen. I wake up every day and I think, what can I do today to make a difference? 3 people. What can I do to make a difference? Pay for somebody's coffee, go to a backpack friends event, meeting, you know, who can you, I want to start something in September. I want to start 30 days in September. I want to just give a challenge to the people out there that every day in September you wake up and you think of one person. If everybody in the Impactivist group thought of one person in September, every day in September, imagine the people that could be touched.
And what you hit on there is where the open hand becomes countercultural, because living simply isn't what our culture tells us to do. You know, our culture is very consumer driven. So we're constantly being told what new thing we have to be happy. And living with an open hand is against that mentality. It's the idea of, you know, less is more. Simplicity is going to make you happy. The list that you were talking about, great idea. The if everybody reaches out and helps one person, 2 people, we could change the whole world that way. But also literally simplifying your life and getting rid of clothes that you haven't worn this year, and looking around your house and seeing things that you haven't touched in 5 years and ask yourself, do I really need that? Is there somebody else who could use that? We're not saying things are bad. We're not saying you have to go live in a cave and be a hermit and not own anything, but simplifying is going to make you happier, and things are not going to make you happier. That's a big aspect of this.
Man, I think that is so crucial because both of you know me and you see me, you know, in person, on social media, video, whatever. And guess what? I'm in a black shirt. I'm in a black shirt 8 days a week, right? Let's be honest. But in my closet, I probably have 70% of the clothes that are in my closet I don't wear. I just don't.
His wife has bought so he'd wear anything but a black t-shirt.
That's right. So for me, there's always an element of stoicism. You think about Marcus Aurelius, right? He was the guy who would get up and he would put on less desirable clothes and wear to the marketplace, wear to public debates, where to meetings, so that people would make fun of him and he would get immune to it so that he could live his life in a much simpler fashion. So for me, there's always an element of stoicism of I need to do this and endure this so that I can do it and be free. And the other part of it is that when one of those things that we're talking about, living open-handedly, and something leaves my hand, something is forced from my hand, whether it's computer problems or car problems or whatever it is, when that happens and I get angry or I get upset or I get gripey or whatever it is, I'm sad. I have to stop and ask myself, why am I this way? Is it because I really value this device? Is it because I really value this thing? Or is it because that thing is tied to my identity? Is it because it's the way people perceive me? I want to look good. I want to come across as good. But why am I, there's some self-reflection in it for me of why does it make me that way? Then that's the root of the thing that I need to address. I don't know. Maybe maybe I just should wear all black shirts. Get rid of everything in my closet that's not black.
I'm not sure that's the answer there, sir, but
It's worth a shot.
So a lot of stuff we talked about today, some of it philosophical, some of it very practical, all of it teaching us that we need to live our lives with an open hand. And as we open our hand, living in the present moment and hearing those birds tell us, attention, attention, attention.
Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that you will. Yeah. And I hope that you'll subscribe and follow and do all that kind of thing. Be part of this conversation. I would love for you at the end, down here in the comments below. I would love for you at the end in the comments below to be able to put some takeaways. What are some things that you can do? What are things that you do that you can share with the rest of the tribe on how to live with an open hand? I think those things are going to be what makes us better versions of ourselves. So thank y'all. Thanks for being here, man. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Summer. Sorry we lost James along the way. We had some connection issues, but we're going to do this again for sure.
Very good.
So
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
See you next time.
All right.